Welcome to the Healing Sexual Trauma Summit. I am Marcy Little, your host, and here with me today is Anna Forrest. Anna Forrest, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yay. All right, before we learn more about Anna and begin to hear what Anna has to tell us, let's just take a moment to get present. So wherever you are, wherever you're sitting, lying, or standing, just take a moment to bring your awareness inward. You can close your eyes, lower your eyelids, or not, whatever feels right to you. And then just notice the sensation of whatever your body is touching. If you're sitting, the sensation of your body touching the cushion or the chair, the couch, if you're in your car, wherever you are, and your feet. And then very gently, you can bring your awareness to your breath without trying to change anything. Just notice what the breath is doing. Where is the rise and fall in your body? And as we listen to Anna today, I invite you to be mindful, stay mindful, and notice if you feel overwhelmed or suddenly feel an urge to flee or get up and move. Simply pause the video, come on back. We'll also be inviting you back into your bodies as we talk. So if you like and your eyes are closed, feel free to open them back up and join us again. Okay. Anna Forrest. Anna Forrest is an inspiration and has been changing people's lives for over 45 years. She's an internationally recognized pioneer in yoga and emotional healing, creatrix of Forrest Yoga, a mystic, visionary, philanthropist, author, and medicine woman. Anna crafted Forrest Yoga while working through healing from her life's own traumas, abuse and addictions, the helplessness around the addictions, and the ongoing suffering from chronic injuries and illnesses. The process of healing herself inspired her to teach others about what really works to heal themselves physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Short bio for someone who's done as much work as you have, Anna. Do you want to add anything?
Oh, it's a long story and a long life. I think I think what's really important for the people that are listening is to know that no matter what happened to you, there is healing for you. But it's not going to happen without 100% active engagement. Doesn't happen automatically. Time all by itself does not heal. You have to be brave and go into the scary places and excavate where things are still controlling you and forcing you to obey old programming. And then the fun part is hunting this stuff and then grabbing it and starting to dismantle it and find out what is life without that. What is a life with freedom? And it's an intellectual question that cannot be answered until you start to earn your freedom. And I really advocate that no matter who is listening, you're worth earning your freedom. It's worthwhile. And you need help with it. You need therapists, you need your yoga teachers, you need loving people around you, but you have to walk the pathway on it. And it's worth it. One of the things that scars most of us that go through sexual trauma is that we're not worth it. And I just want to present that anyone who is sick enough to traumatize another human being, sick and insane enough, why would you believe what they were saying? They're sick and insane. So don't believe the things that they said about you, about not being worth it or you deserve it, or, there's like a abuser script. So don't obey the script. Don't buy into a sick person's bullshit. Yeah?
Yeah. I love that. And I love too that you started with your hands on your heart, and because we start sort of with that tender place. And then the fierceness comes in. And, the title of your book is Fierce Medicine. And I know from reading it and your story and also my own story that it does require a kind of fierce intention and dedication.
Yeah, I learn a lot from the animal world, and I learned how to track and how to stalk
Mm,
in the animal from the animals. And that has been very helpful for me in order to track these elusive, partially hidden trails leading to the origin of the problems, like what the abuse was and what was said, and how it was hammered in with head injuries or whatever it is, and then to begin to find out how to pull it loose, how to dismantle it. And what is really important in going through this is that the process also builds self-respect, because that's part of what's gotten destroyed.
mm,
And so earning your freedom back, earning your healing, builds self-respect. And we need that.
mhm,
We need to learn to have compassion for ourselves and yet be relentless in hunting out these toxic things inside of us and getting rid of them.
mm, mhm,
And yet the judgments that come in, like, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, it's like, well, maybe you didn't know how. And you're learning it right now.
mhm,
So take the judgments that are in your way and just put them aside. Because as long as you have this stuff, this abuse operating at a subterranean level, your judgments will be tainted. And so they're actually not very valid. So put judgments aside. Eventually you'll learn discernment. And like one of the things that I could start to discern, thank you for my animal friends that taught me this, was how to scent the abuse when I started functioning under the abuse. And then if I woke up to it, like, wait, I'm acting a little strange or a little familiar,
uh-huh,
and I would like pick up, there would be a like a psychic stench
uh-huh,
in my behavior or in the dialogue going on.
mm,
And it's like, wow. And the first thing is you stop,
mm,
take many deep breaths, and that helps you reset and get out of that neurological pathway you're about to dive down that's been so deeply entrenched. And you have a moment, I call it a sacred pause.
mm,
You have a moment to assess and choose differently. Like, what's the most healing thing you can do? And sometimes our mind is so caught, it's like we can't think of anything healing to do, or we're not worth it, or la la, all that nonsense. And it's like, sit down, breathe deeply, because that starts to rearrange the old paradigm right there, breathing deeply, and
mhm,
rub your feet. I mean, do something really basic. Rub your feet, and you have a feel good sensation to come in on.
mm,
And that's really important, is to teach your body how to feel good.
mhm,
Because back then, in the trauma, there wasn't feeling good, or it was all mixed up with being hurt, which is even more confusing.
mhm,
So one of the things that I learned to do was to just like pat my skin
mhm,
and just feel that. And it was really hard to focus on it. Like, breathe, feel that sensation,
mm.
breathe. And can you feel it all the way, like from top of the wrist down? Something safe, Massage your hand. Something safe.
Yeah.
Feel that. Learning to feel something else
Mhm,
besides shutdown, numbness, anguish, and pain.
mhm. And
Besides
fear.
that. And so as we go hunting for the trauma and to remove that which made us a victim, we also need to bring in other kinds of feeling, to get educated on a kinesthetic intelligence level, to get educated on feeling other things, like walking in nature and really smelling the earth and the trees, and if you're near the ocean, the salt water, really smelling that,
Mhm,
and giving your busy mind, which has
mm,
probably been on hyper alert for so long, just like shh, quiet, just absorb this nature. This, so instead of getting in a fight with your busy mind, like shut up, it's like that doesn't help. You just need You just start fighting in your brain. You just comfort your brain. And there's a part of the brain that's near the bottom of the brain, right in front of the spinal column, called amygdala. And she's very important, Miss Amygdala, because she's the one that creates patterns around our life experiences, particularly around our traumas. And so I've learned to breathe into the brain and relax amygdala so she can let go of the old patterning, the fear patterning, or the drug patterning that came from the abuse, or whatever the trauma is of the life experience, and start to pattern in a more wholesome and desirable way. Like I will ask each of our people to think about what is energy you want living in your cell tissue. And you can choose now. Like there may be fear and pain and drugs and alcohol and all this shit that's been in there.
Mm-hmm.
But now you can start using some resources like yoga, like clean food, like no more alcohol and drugs, and clean up and start to be able to discern what's in there and become more masterful of choosing what energy you want running through you. Like I
Mm-hmm.
want my spirit running through my cell tissue. That was taken away.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go hunting for my spirit, and it took me a long time to find it, connect to it, and then to quit indulging in my crappy behavior that drove my spirit out. My crappy thinking, my abusive actions, getting injured all the time, all the stuff that I perpetuated from my abuse. I had to stop doing that. So I also had to stop my obsession around that way of thinking and start finding out what else is there. This is very much of a hero's quest.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I encourage people to think about is like we have all these stories about hero's quest. Either the girl or the boy or the man or the woman, they have to go out because something major is happening. And in the process, they get beaten, they get enslaved, they get hurt, they get raped. But it's all surviving that and coming forward and finding pieces of yourself that you never knew about or that you had to reclaim. This is all part of hero's quest. And so know that taking this walk, that all these things happen. People get helpless. People get hurt. Other people hurt you and betray you. And yet, in amongst all this, you will find parts of yourself that are treasures. Treasures. Like, I had a hard time attempting to find that. And one of the things I had to come down to, since I was abused as a child, and I had to realize that I had very little resources as a young child. Very little. And I somehow survived that. Wow. Yeah, wow. That's a tremendous amount of strength
Yeah. And resilience.
and resilience.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, can I start with that truth? This is another really important thing about the healing process is don't lie to yourself. Oh, it's all perfect. No, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
That people abuse other people or rape other people or attack children, that's not perfect. And so stop it with the new age la la nonsense. Stop
Mm-hmm.
and start finding out what's the truth. This happened. And there may be many things behind the initial experience that went on that you don't know about until you start hunting it. Here's where this conditioning came in. Here's where the command to kill yourself, to do suicide came in. Here's where all these various things came in, and you start to pull it out. It's sort of like pulling splinters or bullets out of you. You have to get this toxic little nasty thing out, and then you care for the area
Mm-hmm.
it was
Yeah.
in. You
Yeah.
care for it so it can
Okay.
heal with healthy tissue and not have big glops of psychic, emotional, or physical scar tissue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like how you brought that in, Anna. It's so important. It's like often when the initial traumas occur, we're very small. We have very limited personal resources, developmentally, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and perhaps if it's coming from outside, external resources, and yet the fact of being able to still survive that. But then later, when we're doing what you're talking about, it's like the body's bigger, the inner resources have grown, there's more nerve endings, like everything is bigger and more able now to do
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about.
And sometimes it seems like, this is as best as I could figure it, when something needed to be discovered, it would come up in different ways. For example, as an adult, as a sober adult, I'd already gone through the alcohol drug phase. I hooked up with a partner who's a man, but what I didn't recognize in him until the big drama happened was he embodied the aspects of my abuser, who
Yeah.
was a woman. And I didn't recognize it because there was a man woman difference, and yet the using factor, and there's all these elements, and it's like, I have to solve this so I
Mm-hmm.
don't keep pulling these people in.
Mm-hmm.
One of the alerts that I offer those who are brave enough, scared and shaking in their boots, but brave enough to go on this hunt for their own healing and freedom, is that shame, guilt, blame is going to come up a lot. And those are just the monsters of this bog that you have to bog slog through. So, we should have done this, or it's my fault, or, I'm so ashamed. And it's just like, don't obey that stuff. Just be aware of it. It's part of the programming. Disobey.
Mm-hmm.
Disobey the dictates of the abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Anything tells you to destroy yourself with that alcohol, with the food, with having sex that you don't respect yourself about, just recognize these impulses and the wondrous, mind blowing freedom of, you don't have to obey that anymore because you're watching, you're getting it, you're learning right now so
Mm-hmm.
that you can finally change your destiny. Because if you don't change it, you keep living it over and over again in various forms. Almost like with a wound, the skin will grow over it, and there's this big lump, so to speak, there, and there's something nasty inside that may sprout different problems. And that's like what abuse does. It's like, if you ignore it, it doesn't go away, but we keep growing more and more layers of numbness against it, trying to protect ourselves from it. But that isn't protection, because we shut more and more and more off to life. And so we lose our connection to our spirit, we lose our connection to nature, we lose our connection to our art, to our creativity, and it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
What's worth it is, you're worth it to go through this process. And yes, you have to look and find other resources, even though your conditioning and your abuse will tell you you have to do it alone. That's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
You need to go to people who know how to wade through this storminess of abuse. You need help, and you need to work it on your own. I
Mm-hmm.
highly recommend Forest Yoga for this, because I designed it as a healing visionary pathway. So not only are you questing for your own healing and your own freedom, you're also questing for your connection to your spirit. Part of this process is also starting to quest for what's your purpose in life. You went through all these hard things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what did that train you for in a really strange way? For me, it made me fearless about helping other people work through the terrors in their life. It's like, there's a way through this. There is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One thing as you were talking, sort of the animal tracking and that
Mhm.
animal part of our nature. It's sort of the animal part of our nature that instinctively knows how to keep us safe. But it's also the animal part of our nature that knows how to then get out of that stuckness and back into freedom. Like that tracking instinct as you talk about it. But
Mhm.
it also, it sounds like, it's like it needs help. It needs
Yeah,
help to develop.
sure.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, the people that are attempting to step into the new age way of being, there's a lot of nonsense in the new age teachings.
Mhm.
You have to forgive your abuser. No, you don't. Why should you forgive someone for doing something like that?
Mhm.
Oh, I was over 21, I'm an adult, it was my fault. No, it's not. No, it's not. So there's, in the new age teachings, things like passion, rage, all these things are like, oh, no, 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 those aren't PC. And at a certain point, rage is very useful
Mhm.
because it helps burn through the apathy and it helps connect you to strength. I suggest you don't hang out in the rage too long, but for a while you may need to be so damn angry of not being protected, not being helped, that this happened at all those things. And that rage is righteous. But when we keep using our rage and then our clever manipulative mind that helped us survive that, the experiences, and we start manipulating the people around us, then it's like that's where you have to go on a hunt too. It's like cut that crappy behavior out. Cut
Mhm.
it out.
Mhm.
And instead, if you want something from somebody, why don't you be honest about, I would love to have this interaction with you, or for you to be my friend, or I need your help in this way, instead of attempting to manipulate another person. And understand that sneaky kind of slippery manipulation is a coping mechanism that you learned, but it's unethical. So what happened to you is so far unethical that it needs a whole nother word. But you need to now start living in a way that makes you proud of yourself. And
Mhm.
what would that be? You
Mhm.
get to explore that. Like yesterday when Jose and I were doing yoga and he had a breakthrough and I needed to point out, like, wait, stop, pause, breathe in. This
Mhm.
was a breakthrough. Really enjoy it.
Mhm.
Instead of like, oh, I should be doing it better or this or that. It's just like, you just did this breakthrough. Enjoy that.
Right. And it can be
One of the things
tiny.
I love. Oh, yeah. It could be taking a full, steady, deep breath instead of a panic breath.
Yeah.
And that's seemingly tiny, but the fact is that when you change your breathing, you change your chemistry, you affect your entire body, your brain. You
Mhm.
start changing everything with changing your breathing.
Mhm.
So, right now, listeners, are you breathing? Breathe deeply now. So, I got another key for you, people who are listening to this. Learning how to be in body is another way of dismantling the damage that happened to you. So I teach active feet, and here's a foot, spread the toes, feel your feet, and if you have a floor that you can put your foot down, feel the ground
Mhm.
underneath your feet. Right under the floor, the cement pad, there's ground, there's earth. Feel that.
Mhm.
And start learning how to walk, feeling the earth. Almost all of our nerve endings end up in the feet, and so that makes a very profound change through the nervous system to get grounded. So, one of our coping mechanisms that works really well in the middle of trauma is disconnecting, disembodying, even flying off to some other part in your mind or out of your mind. And that is, if there's nothing left to do, that's a good thing to be able to do, is just get the hell out, at least in your mind, at least your consciousness, or black out. As a healing mechanism, it doesn't work. You have to come into your body and claim this beautiful gift of life.
Mhm.
This is a miracle, this body. It's not very well understood by our doctors, by ourselves, by anybody. It's a miracle and a mystery, and it's time to reclaim it.
Mhm.
Is there another question?
I'm just feeling into that because I love it so much and it's so important. I have 1,000 questions, Anna.
Let's
um,
start with one at a time.
let me see. Let me just have a look. Um, okay, here's a question for you. The same question that I asked Laura Davis, who was a co-author of The Courage to Heal. I don't know if you're familiar with her. Yes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the two books that her and her partner wrote.
Yeah.
There's Courage to Heal and then Courage to Heal Workbook, I think,
Yep.
was the name of
Right.
the other one.
Yep. So what does it mean to keep growing decades after the initial healing from trauma took place? Because you've been on this path for over 45 years, right?
Yes, but
Yeah.
my path isn't only about healing, even though there are times when that's all I can focus on because it's such a big deal. You know, it's like when we only have a certain amount of focus ability, sometimes with the healing path, you need to let go of everything else in order to focus
Mhm.
because you have this amount of energy, like this much, and it needs to go into this. But I also, once I could get to an honest place of realizing that I matter, and to care about myself, that was not easy. Eventually, to even learn to love and respect myself and be blown away by the mystery that I embody because I'm fascinated by mystery, by the great mystery, is to take responsibility for my own evolution. And to me, that's like the most fun, sexy game in town. It's like, wow, I want to claim this. And so to find things, to find out what actually works, what helps me to evolve, what do I define as evolving? So
Mhm.
there's the breakthroughs in yoga. And sometimes it's like when you get a pose, there's a like, I feel it. No, I can feel my feet, or I can feel the pose, or I got my balance in a handstand. For a second, I got my balance. To take those moments and really drink them in, because that's changing your chemistry. Now, there's another aspect about yoga which I think is some of the crap in yoga, which is like, oh, the poses don't matter and that just builds your ego. It's like, listen, the poses matter a lot. One is they build your health. Two, they begin to take this beautiful gift of body and teaches you how to operate it. We need an operating manual and we don't have one. It begins to teach you how to bring into alliance your brain and the rest of your body and have them working together, which is an amazing, empowering thing. And through the poses, through this yoga practice, you can begin to vision quest for what you need and want. You build your own luminosity, and that's a really big deal. You can use
You build which muscle? I couldn't hear that. You build what?
your luminosity.
Luminosity.
Yes, that's a big muscle.
Woo. Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and to you can choose to make doing the yoga practice as a way of learning how to embody spirit,
Mhm.
which I think we all need. But to decide, like, what can I do today that will help me evolve? And I also like to teach people about a daily diet for the evolving soul. So, like when you make your food or you go and buy your food, can you choose food that literally builds your luminosity?
Mhm.
And so you need to discern the difference between a Big Mac hamburger and broccoli, for example. What makes you sick and dull and stupid, and what builds your health and cleans your cells so that your cells, when they regenerate a brighter blueprint instead of a faded old Xerox, which is
Mhm.
called aging. So you provide fresh energy, good food, yoga, deep breathing, and a loving, curious mind, and all kinds of miraculous things can happen. So, daily diet for the evolving soul, you can reach in almost any direction. Like, what activities do you do that brightens you up or that makes you dull? I'll leave that up to people to figure that out, but look at
Yeah.
how much time that, you spend on social media. If you're participating in something like this is something that can brighten you. It's an educational, inspirational program.
Mhm.
Thank you very much for doing this. Or, you know, if you're checking garbage on social media, just check it out how it makes you dull, narrow, and kind of stupid. Do
Mhm.
you really want to build your stupidity? I don't. I don't respect that. I don't respect when I do stupid things. I respect when I do things that are creative or a inspirational breakthrough or having a new insight. Do things that inspire you.
Mhm. Mhm.
Daily diet for the evolving soul. So what does she need? Work it out. Maybe
Mhm.
you can at least do one good thing to build that, to build your evolution, to build your luminosity. And
Yeah.
what a great focus. It's a great focus. And I also teach about with the daily diet for the evolving soul is a dharma joust. And what does that mean? It means that whatever's happening, lockdown, terror about the shots or the pandemic or whatever's happening, what can you learn from it? So if terror is flooding you, my friend, that's an old program. So how do you use these circumstances going on right now and begin to change that chemistry? So you may not be able to change what's going on outside. Maybe you can't change the lockdown or being threatened with this or that or the other. You know, like there's a lot of weird stuff going on in our world right now, but you can change how you react to it.
Mhm.
So when I'm doing my yoga during these times, I have to get honest about, whoa, I just got flooded with fear.
Mhm.
My friends in Australia are in lockdown for no good reason. That's very frightening and upsetting to me. And so now I need to wash that out. So I got that piece of information, but now it doesn't get to control me. It doesn't get to make me sick and fearful and shut down. I need to move that out.
I love this because it's a Bhaya mudra.
It's what?
A Bhaya mudra. And your hands keep coming. It's the no fear mudra. And your hands instinctively, as you speak about this, come into it each and every
Yes,
time.
open hands instead of curled up in fear.
Right, right,
Yeah.
exactly. Great. Okay. Um, so we've been talking for a while, and I would love to talk to you a ton. I think we need to start coming into closing. And I know that you agreed to be interviewed today without Jose, and that usually now you guys, you call yourselves, you really refer to your relationship as the twin flame, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's very beautiful. Um, so I'm curious what was the call to be here on your own today?
I wanted to be able to offer up, to contribute to what you're doing because I really advocate what you're doing. And I'm hoping that the people that are tapped into your network will listen. I have many, many gems to offer on the healing road and on the finding soul purpose and spiritual connection. And so it was a great, I think you're doing a great thing. I wanted to be a part of it.
Okay. Any final words of wisdom that you feel are vitally important before we close our talk today?
Hmm. I feel that the healing road, as well as the hero's journey, the heroine's journey and quest, can start in any direction. It can start with coming into good relationship with food, because most of us are not in good relationship. So, how to prepare your food in a loving, healing way, choosing well for yourself. No longer choosing something that's going to feed your addiction or feed your shutdown. I'm a vegan because I've chosen to no longer ingest suffering and anguish from the animals because there's a tremendous amount of suffering that goes on there. I had to find out that I could live not having to kill to live, and that was amazing realization for me. So look into your food. Change your breathing as often as you can think about it. Stop, pause, take a few deep breaths, and then you'll forget, and that's all right. But remind yourself many times. Open all of your senses, especially the ones that have been coiled up in fear and pain, and start letting those little neurological pathways have new information to come in from the beauty of the world that we live in. Yes, there's a lot of scary, awful shit going on, but there's like how recently have you stood outside under the night sky and listened to the stars sing? Yeah. How often have you immersed yourself in the beauty of the star fields, or hanging out with a tree, or feeling the thrumming of the life force going through a tree or in the ground? So to take some time to be with a tree, to be in nature, to feel your connection to that, because we have a place in that delicate interlacing web of life. And to be brave enough, even though you may be scared, to open up these pathways that have been clogged or shut down, and start finding out, what else do you perceive? What more truth do you perceive than you have before? Because the truth, going after finding out what's truth, you'll find pieces of it, and it will keep changing your vision, kind of like a kaleidoscope. It will keep changing what you see and feel. And know that you're walking into the great mystery, which sounds beautiful and romantic, but it also means something really uncomfortable, which is you don't know, and you're going to find out.
Wonderful. Anna Forrest has a free gift for you. Would you like me to tell folks, or would you like to tell them, Anna?
Go ahead.
Okay, there's a link below here, and if you click onto that link, you'll be taken to a page where you can sign up to have a free class with Anna. So you can really check out her fierce medicine. And if you would like to be able to hear Anna's wisdom at any time in your future, just come back to this, because it is chock full here, or any of the other speakers in our interview series, then you may want to buy this while it's at a very low price. If being here for 48 hours is your jam, you're more than welcome, and we're so glad to have you. Anna Forrest, a deep honor, a deep pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing yourself with us today.
You're welcome. You're welcome. May we all learn to walk in beauty. That's a really good thing.
May we learn to walk in beauty.